Hey guys, welcome to Electronic Dance Money, your number one business resource for making money as electronic musicians and producers. Yo! Let's get into it today, guys. Welcome back to Electronic Dance Money. I'm your host, Christian Casito. We're going to be hanging out and talking about some social media stuff today. One thing that's been on my mind and that I've talked to a couple of other people about as well is whether or not it's more beneficial for individuals who are trying to grow their social media reach or grow a fan base or grow followers, blah, 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 insert whatever name you want to call them. Should you focus on one single platform, or should you be essentially working every single platform as much as possible and putting in a ton of effort everywhere? And I think this actually plays into niches and niching down, right? Because when we're talking about niches and business, one of the worst things you could do is never niche down at all. So you have just a very broad, wide audience, and therefore you don't really actually have any specific audience, right? You're not really selling to any one person. So it's going to be much more difficult, especially when you start getting into marketing campaigns or running ads, to like solidify who it is you're selling to and how to sell to them. And I would say marketing or using social media platforms is relatively the same, right? If you know which social media platform to focus in on, it could be a struggle to really narrow down and find out where your energy is best spent. And now you're wasting time working on other platforms that might not work. So what it comes down to, just outright, and we're gonna get more into the social media reach part for the majority of this episode. But when you're just flat out asking the question, should I just focus on posting on Instagram and growing my Instagram following? Or should I focus on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook and TikTok? The fact of the matter, the plain simple answer to that question is stuff we've talked about in the past. Well, where's your target audience? Because that's where you want to be. That's where you want to focus a majority of your time and your energy. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't post to other social media sites. It doesn't mean that it's not beneficial. But plain and simple, if your audience is on one specific platform for a high majority of the time, almost all the time, your energy is going to be best spent wherever that platform is. In order to know where your target audience is, you're going to have to do a little bit of target audience research. You're going to have to do some market research. And we've talked a little bit about this in the past when you're coming up with what's called your customer avatar. If you don't know what your customer avatar is, that's something that you want to do. If you don't even know what a customer avatar means, like what that is, well, let's just put it into an explanation for you real quick. Coming up with your customer avatar means that you'd want to come up with all the demographics of an individual and give this person a name. So you'd want to give them a name, their age, what their occupation is, where do they live, and you can generalize that if you want. You can just say a country, or if you want to get even more specific, you could say a state. Are they single? Are they married? Do they have kids? How much money do they make per year? You want to get as much information written down about this person that you're creating as possible. You would also want to include their different interests. What are their dreams? What are their goals? Just a basic overlook of what this person looks like who would be interested in your product, service, or even your music. And this gives you a really good rough outline of what this person looks like. Now, included with that is you want to know where are they hanging out. You want to include where are these people either online or physically in person, or even both. For most of us, this is going to be focused on where are they hanging out online. What different websites are they on? Whether that's a blog, a forum, a social media site, doesn't matter. You need to figure out what that is. Now, again, for most of us, especially in 2022, we're going to be focusing on what social media sites are they on. And this is where, if you're struggling with that section of your customer avatar, or maybe you're not sure, Maybe you wrote down a social media site and you focused on that specific social media site or a website, but you haven't gotten a lot of traction. So maybe your intention of, or your assumption of where they're at is wrong. So we need to do a little extra research on where it is that they may be hanging out at. Now, this can be done in a number of ways. Let's say you're on Facebook and you've got a ton of friends on there that are producers. You could quickly start a poll if you know that a lot of your posts get comments and liked by other producers. Start a poll, ask where other EDM producers are hanging out at. You could do this in other Facebook groups as well. This is Facebook specific. You could set up a Google survey as well. And if you wanted to post this on Instagram or your story, because you know you get a lot of traction there, post it on there. Tell people to go to the link in your bio and have them fill out a survey. Super easy to do. And if you can get a lot of responses, you'll get a lot of good information back. Now, if those aren't available for you, if you can't go that route and you can't get traction going and getting responses from other producers about that, one thing that you can do on different websites is just simply start looking up whatever that website is known for or what they're good at. So, for instance, Instagram, they're really good at hashtags. That's kind of what the whole platform is built around, is using hashtags. So you want to do some searching of hashtags that would be popular in your industry or your genre, or even just EDM as a whole if you're working in electronic music, and start looking around and seeing what people are posting with that hashtag. You may also want to write some of these hashtags down because they'll be a benefit to you later on, especially as we get into the social media reach side of the episode. Facebook, they're really good at groups. That's one thing that Facebook is really good at, is they're good at getting communities built around specific groups. So looking up and searching for different groups on Facebook will give you a good idea of, one, what kind of producers on Facebook, the quality of producers, and what are they looking for and what are they interested in. Now, I say producers because you're much more likely to find producers on Facebook in groups that are actually talking with each other and they're updating within Facebook groups. And again, I'm pointing to other producers for a multitude of reasons. One, most electronic music producers are fans of electronic music. They listen to electronic music, so they inherently are your target audience. The other benefit to that is as you start building connections in some of these groups, you may get some allies in terms of people who would share your music if you're sharing theirs, or you can pat each other on the back and help each other out. So there's a lot of intended benefits with working with other producers in Facebook groups. There are other music groups that you can find as well, just casual listeners of electronic music. You can find that in groups. You can also find that on hashtags as well. Again, you just need to do the research to see what are the hashtags that people are popularizing electronic music, specifically either listeners or producers, that you can utilize on and get a good idea of, is this the platform for me that I need to be on? With Reddit, you can easily find Reddit pages that you could probably find your target audience on, if they're on there. It's important, though, to keep in mind with Reddit pages, like, you have to look at the rules to see if you can ask certain questions. Reddit it's kind of restricted. A lot of those Reddit pages lock down certain conversations that can be had within Reddit pages, which can be a bit of a hassle, can be a pain in the ass, but there's a lot of great Reddit pages still for both casual listeners of different genres of music, but also specific pages either for artists or production or DJing, whatever the hell it is. There's a lot of really great resources where you can find people who are highly active on those pages and are probably dedicated listeners and huge fans of the music, right? Reddit pages are just it harbors hardcore fanboys. So don't discredit Reddit and think that that's not a good place to be in, because it could be very, very beneficial, especially as we get into the later episode where we're talking about audience reach and being a part of a community. Now, TikTok, for instance, another one, great with hashtags or possibly even sounds. So that's a great resource to use to see, is my target audience who is in this customer avatar, the person that I want to be targeting, are they on this platform and should I be involved in this platform? TikTok is an interesting one because if an EDM track blows up on TikTok, which they have, and they will continue to do that, sometimes the people utilizing certain sounds, maybe even hashtags, aren't necessarily your target audience, right? Is your target audience a 14-year-old girl who's just doing dances and trying to be an influencer on TikTok really your target audience? Not necessarily. That might not be the case, especially if they're just trying to jump on a trend. So you need to make sure that when you're doing target audience research specifically on TikTok, that you're finding your customer avatar, the specific person that you have written down in there within that age group. Within that, either are they male or female? Do they meet the demographics in terms of what their job looks like and possibly their income stream? Are they single? Are they married with kids? Like, make sure that matches the people that you're seeing on different hashtags or sounds within TikTok, so you know what is a good one to target and what's not. And is TikTok going to be good for this? Now, if you're just trying to blow up a song, that might not necessarily matter on TikTok. You're just trying to blow up a song on TikTok. It doesn't matter who your target audience is. You want to get to the most amount of people as quick as possible and get some of the bigger influencers trending on whatever topic or related sound that you're wanting to blow up. You just want them involved in that. So now that we have an idea of what we need to be looking for our target audience and how to do the research of where our target audience is, we can now move on to the audience reach and engagement. It's important to know too that you may very well find not just one, but multiple platforms that are really good, right? It's okay if you have two platforms that your target audience is dedicated on, right? Instagram, your target audience is heavily influenced and involved in Instagram. Your target audience might also be on Reddit just as much. So you want to tackle both of those. But the issue becomes when if your target audience is both on Instagram and Reddit, and some of it's on Facebook and some of it's on TikTok, and you go, well, I want to utilize all of them and get in front of as many people as possible. Well, now you have an issue where you're spreading yourself super thin. You're spending time on platforms that you may not necessarily need to be spending time on. And instead, what you need to do is hyper focus on specific platforms. So this now leads us perfectly into the next part of the episode, where we're going to be talking about the 4 steps to audience reach and engagement. And step number 1 is going to be that hyper focusing on the platform where your target audience is most represented. So again, it doesn't have to be just one single platform. It could be 2 platforms. Once you start getting to 3, 4, maybe even 5 platforms, then you need to take a good hard look at like where are they mostly focused? Because again, we don't want to spread ourselves too thin, because this is when promo plans and marketing plans become very stressful. If you don't have the proper systems in place, it's going to be a pain in the ass. And it's going to be very, very overwhelming to be like, I have to post this on Facebook and Instagram. Now I have to be on Reddit. I have to be responding to people on TikTok. And I have to be continuously, like, it just becomes very overwhelming. And the motivation quickly goes away for you to want to do any sort of marketing or any sort of promotion on any of these platforms. Next thing you know, you're back to not doing anything at all, or the bare minimum. So now we know where our target audience is. We know the platform or platforms that we need to hyper focus our attention. So step 2 of this audience reach and engagement is going to be you applying yourself and being a part of the community. You want to be a name that's known in this community of individuals on these platforms, so that you can start getting followers from them or getting followed by them, and that they know that you're a trusted source in this community looking to help others. So what are some ways that we can be a part of this community that we're now in? Well, For Instagram specifically, because I imagine most of you guys, most of your target audiences will be on Instagram, a high majority. Gary Vee has a fantastic strategy for engagement and getting followers on Instagram that is massively beneficial. I've done this for myself. I need to do it more. I think about it all the time. I have other producers that I've taught this strategy to as well, and they have gotten massive benefits from utilizing this strategy, but it's called the $1.80 strategy. And so the point of this strategy is to give your 2 cents on the top 9 hashtags for your community or the niche that you're in, the genre that you're in, on 10 different posts within those hashtags. So you would look up 9 different hashtags, whatever the top ones are for your community or your genre, your niche. And then within those hashtags, you want to give your 2 cents and comment on 10 posts. After doing this, if you do it once a day, which is one of the best strategies to do, it's a lot of work, but if you can do it once a day, you'll start getting followers very quickly. And it adds up to $1.80 every day, right? You're giving your 2 cents on all these posts, it's $1.80. So it's the $1.80 strategy. And it's a genius strategy. It really actually works. I've gained a ton of followers for the podcast by doing this, by engaging with people on Instagram. And this strategy can be utilized on other social media sites, and we'll get into that in just a second. But it's important to understand that you need to be a part of the community if you want others to be a part of your community. So engaging in other people's content is what everyone wants. Or let me phrase it this way. What do you want? If you're posting on social media, you want others to engage with your content and enjoy it and like it. So you need to first be the person that does that with others in order to get them engaged. So if you know that other listeners or producers or whoever are wanting you to be engaged with their content, be engaged with it, and they will click on your profile and go, who's this person? They'll start looking through it and they'll be like, this is right up my alley. Let me follow this person and start engaging with their content. And what I mean by engaging with their content is, I believe I've talked about this strategy in the past, but it may not have been this in depth, but I know that I've mentioned this before. When engaging with other people's content, going through these hashtags and going through these posts, let's say you find a track that someone posted, a clip of it or whatever. The worst thing that you can do is just comment some fire emojis and go sick, right? That's not engaging. That doesn't mean anything. You just look like a bot at that point. That person's not going to care to respond, more than likely. They're not going to care to look at your page, more than likely. You need to give good, engaging responses. Be specific. What about their content is interesting? The more specific you are about whatever it is that you're looking at, the more likely they're going to realize, oh, this is a real person that's engaging, that likes what I'm doing. Who are they? And so it's going to get them to want to click and follow you or check you out even more so. Some people I follow when I do the strategy, some I don't. So you don't need to follow every single person. But the point is that you're getting engaged with this community of others. It may be that they know some other listeners or producers that follow them that see that you're engaged, and they also start looking at what you're doing, especially if you're doing it consistently with their content over time. So the strategy is it is so massively beneficial. I highly, highly suggest everyone that's listening, if you're on Instagram and you're focusing on Instagram, use this strategy, and I promise you it'll work out. In the show notes, I'll include a blog that Gary Vee did 4 or 6 years ago. I can't remember, where he talks about this strategy. That way you have a clear guide on it. And, Gary Vee's good for some things. I think he's bad at others. I don't really like his motivational stuff, but he knows what he's talking about when he talks about growing platforms. So that's one of the big benefits that I think Gary Vee has to share with a lot of us as creatives and freelancers and musicians. He knows how to grow a platform. He knows how to grow a page. Now, if you take this idea of this strategy, you can do the exact same thing with stuff on Reddit. You can go to a Reddit page where your target audience is and look at the most recent posts, or even look at the hottest posts right now and start giving your 2 cents on different pages. And all of that stuff adds up. And as long as you're not confrontational, which is very important to be, don't be confrontational, especially on Reddit. It doesn't bode over well. It's not good for your mental health. And it's just, it can be a clusterfuck, and it can just be very, very bad. The other point of that is that anyone can go to your Reddit page and look at the previous comments that you've had on posts or your previous posts on different Reddit pages. So if someone sees that you're confrontational and you're toxic, especially if they go to your page, they're going to be off put by that, and they're going to want to engage with being confrontational against you. So it does you more of a disservice if you're being confrontational with others and be like, no, you're wrong. I don't think that's a good way to use Reddit, and that's a lot of what some of Reddit can be at certain times. But think about if you're engaging in a positive way on different Reddit posts, or if you're lending someone some feedback and giving them advice in a constructive manner that's not toxic, but someone else engages on your post that's toxic, but you don't respond to them. If someone goes to your page, they're going to see all the positivity that you're giving to others, and they're going to want to engage positively with you as well. So keep that in mind when you're using Reddit, but this strategy can be done on Reddit. This strategy can be done on TikTok. This strategy could probably be utilized on Facebook. If you're going through groups, though, it doesn't work out as well as something like Instagram or TikTok, but you can still utilize a very similar strategy like this on Facebook. Really, with Facebook, if you want to be engaged in groups, you want to be known in that community. Facebook as a whole is too big. Groups narrow that audience down, that narrows that reach down, and you can be really well known as a person that gives helpful advice and is engaged in a community by just constantly commenting on people's posts. You can get badges next to your name within groups if you're someone who's doing this constantly. So, like that is I think that utilizing that for Facebook groups is super beneficial. So let's go over the 2 steps that we've already seen. We're hyper focusing on a platform, and we're being a part of a community. This is going to start helping us with getting our audience reach and engaging with people to get them engaged with us and want to follow us and see what we're doing. Now, while you're being a part of a community, this is where we go back to, if you're doing target audience research on something like Instagram or TikTok and you find a hashtag that's really good that you could start utilizing, you want to start writing that stuff down, because step 3 is going to be finding relevant content for your audience that they enjoy, and start developing some more of your content strategies around that specific type of content. So you want to start creating this using those hashtags that you found, posting this content with those hashtags, so that others that you're already engaged with, that you're already talking to, find the content that you're creating that's relevant to theirs, and they're interested or relevant to the ones that they're following. The other thing to keep in mind is that the people commenting on specific posts while you're doing this hashtag research or target audience research, those people might also be a part of your target audience, and they'll start getting engaged with the stuff that you're creating if you're creating relevant content and you're using relevant hashtags as well. So step 3 is about developing your content strategies around this research that you've done. That way you can best utilize the others that you're not talking to that see your content, and then they get engaged. One thing that's important to point out as well, that if your audience is on Instagram and TikTok, and you decide that you need to start making reels because that's what your target audience is engaged in, or they're engaged in TikTok content, don't forget to repost your reels to TikTok and vice versa. Repost your TikTok content to reels, so that you don't have to spend as much time engaging in both platforms, but you're utilizing the same content on both. So it's less work. You're like doubling up for less work. You can use similar hashtags, although not all the time, because remember, hashtags on TikTok trend different than hashtags on Instagram or Reels. but you can still utilize similar hashtags, I'm sure. Or if you keep a list of hashtags, current hashtags of the month that you should be posting on and following, you can then just quickly go to that spreadsheet, copy those, post it with your post. And that way you don't have to constantly be looking up or remember or looking back at previous posts on hashtags that you need to be using. So keeping a nice list of hashtags that you're using for the month or for the week or for the next couple of weeks can be really helpful with just enhancing that workflow and time management. Now, step 4 for your audience reach and engagement is going to be simple. It's things we've talked about in the past, and that's supporting others on your page, your personal page, your profile, whatever it is. That way, you are getting the people that you're supporting engaged with your content. They realize that you're here to help them and that they may want to help you, but also you're able to utilize the fans and the followers that they already have. So they see, oh, this person's posting about so-and-so. Maybe I would also like them. And they'll go to your page and they go, actually, yeah, I really like this. Let me follow them. Let me get engaged with their content. So this could be resharing stories. This could be resharing posts. This could be congratulating people. This could be done in a number of ways. One content strategy that I'm about to start using that I actually mentioned to my client Discord group, and that I saw on a podcast with James Cross from Bandhive, who we recently had on just a few months ago or a couple of months ago. He had someone on who talked about creating playlists. He's in a band or an artist, I can't remember, but he would create playlists and update them weekly with new artists, smaller artists, and he would tag the people he added to his playlist. And so what this does is this not only gets the fans of that page engaged, but the person that he's supporting is probably going to repost that. They're probably going to share that in stories. They're probably going to comment, and they're going to get engaged and happy that he's supporting them. But that repost to their fans just shows that, hey, this is someone you should also follow who's supporting me, and it boosts you no matter what. So this is a really fun strategy that I'm about to start doing. I'm going to create a playlist and start updating it weekly and tagging smaller artists in to one, help them, support them, right? Get them listeners, get them playlisted, help them in their social media algorithm, in their Spotify algorithm. So I'm actually helping them, but also engaging with them so that they see, oh, this person's supporting me, let me help support them as well. So supporting others is going to be your step 4 of getting as many people engaged and reaching the biggest audience possible. Let's go over the 4 steps again. And actually, let's start from the very beginning. So if you don't know who your target audience is or where your target audience is, you want to make your customer avatar and find and do some research on different platforms with either hashtags or pages or groups on where your audience is and where they're hanging out. Once you figure out that those 1 or 2 platforms, you want to hyper focus your attention on those platforms. Again, you can still post to other social media sites, but your focus needs to be on where your audience is so that your time is spent well and you're not wasting your time. Be a part of the community. Engage in other posts, right? You want to get them to engage with your content, so be engaged with theirs in a good manner. Be respectful. Don't create confrontation. Step 3, while you are doing your target audience research and being a part of the community, you should be writing down relevant hashtags and content that looks interesting or that your audience is interested in, and start developing your strategies around that similar content so that you get those other people engaged in your stuff that you're not currently engaging with within the community. So developing your strategy for step 3. Step 4 is going to be supporting others on your page. Whatever strategy you want to use to go about that, if you can come up with one on your own, even better. You can look these strategies up. I've given you a couple, but just supporting others on your page is going to hit their fan base of the people you're supporting. It's also going to get them to be engaged and want to follow you and try and support you as well. That's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed. Start working on those strategies. get that audience reach and engagement, find out where your target audience is, and start utilizing this in a proper manner. Head to enviousaudio.com/episode 72 to check out the show notes, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.